It's not playing. Hey.
There it goes.
So stupid. Why am I like this? Welcome to the Get Offset Pod. Oh, I stopped.
It happened.
Let's stop. It did stop. Did stop.
There
That's
we go.
fine because I wanted to redo that anyway. Welcome to the Get Offset Podcast. My name is Emily.
And my name is Andrew.
And we're what? Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Like my voice, I've been talking to you for like 10 minutes and my voice isn't fine, and all of a sudden it cracks. Like full pubescent voice cracking.
Oh boy. That's embarrassing for you. I just want to start this episode really quickly by thanking Phoebe Bridgers for smashing that guitar on SNL. I did a little video about it that I released last Monday, and it, I think, was my quickest ever growing video. It's going to be one of my biggest revenue videos. So thanks for like the dollars for everybody who watched that and either agreed with me or yelled at me in the comments.
Special thanks to all the alpha males who watched it 5 times to figure out how to deconstruct everything that was being said in order to make women look bad. It's great.
Yeah. Let me just put together my 10-point list of why that sucked. Seems to be like, because every time, like, when I took like the 3 arguments I saw the most and just kind of dissected them a little bit. And then there were just more. Like there were more things. I can't even remember all of them. But yeah, just people found reasons to get mad about that. One that didn't pop up until later, someone said that it wasn't like it wasn't environmentally sustainable to smash a guitar. I'm like, the problem isn't like one person smashing a guitar, dude. It's like manufacturers making thousands of cheap, crappy guitars every single year. That's the bigger problem. Obviously.
I mean, yeah. But then again, we also banned plastic straws, even though, things like Amazon have much bigger impact, but okay.
Yeah, there's this idea in like recycling and that the marketing really pushed it pretty heavily onto consumers, when in fact that it is like big businesses and corporations that are responsible for the bulk of the litter. But I mean, I gotta be honest, dude, I've like volunteered to clean waterways, so I've like been in it in like little creeks and stuff. There were so many straws. Of all the things that I saw, straws were the most numerous and the hardest to clean up. So, like, on one hand, I get it. Like, if you can avoid using a plastic straw, that'd be dope. I know there's tons of people who cannot. There are lots of people who need to use straws. That's a real thing. And so I can just say, like, if you're going to use a straw, please just try to dispose of it properly. And you can't always. You can't anticipate like a seagull tearing a hole in a trash bag.
Well, seagulls deserve everything that they get. Let's be honest. Those creatures are getting flashbacks.
Of your ice cream getting stolen by a seagull or something?
Not ice cream. No, I'm thinking of a specific instance. I think I was in middle school and we were at the beach and I've been surfing all morning. And we got out and my buddy's dad was like grilling out. And he's like, "Hey, come on, the food's almost ready." And I'm like walking over. He turns around and I just see the seagull swoop down and grab a sausage. Now, not just any sausage. Do you know those sausages that are like horseshoe shaped in the packaging to like make it fit?
Yeah, a big link.
Yeah. Sucker just like grabbed one of those, flew off 15 feet, going like the whole thing down.
That's disgusting.
I was like, is this family appropriate or flew another 10 feet, dude, keeled over and died because it was just too...
Are you serious?
Yes,
it just choked on the sausage?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame you. That would haunt me forever before it died. Like, before you finish the story, I'm like, that's terrible. And then you finish the story, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, he deserved it, but now everyone's looking at each other like, well, guess we're going to have half a sausage each.
My mom has a story about like my mom used to have to travel for work, and of course, they would always make the like whoever she was traveling with, they'd make the most of like whatever time they had like to themselves. And I guess once they went to a pier, and my mom's friend just kept like making major hints that she wanted, like, ice cream sounded really
Were
good.
they
She wanted to get
invisible
ice cream.
before, or you said they went to a pier? Were they invisible before? Or?
And so my mom just kind of got, I guess, tired of her friend hinting about how much she wanted ice cream, and she was like, "We're gonna get you an ice cream cone. Let's get you an ice cream cone." So they went this big long line. They get an ice cream cone, and before my mom's friend can even, or coworker friend can even consume the ice cream, Seagull comes down, just steals the whole thing, and my mom's friend just starts crying. I'm like, yeah, I would too. Yeah. I'm an adult woman. I would cry if I was like, had been thinking about an ice cream cone for like an hour, waited in line for like 20 minutes, and then just before I could even get a bite, a seagull, like, that would be scary, like, and also like upsetting.
Well,
Seagulls are gross.
Seagulls are gross, but at the same time, park rangers get protective about them, which I don't understand.
Well, you don't want to hurt them. You just want them to leave
They
you
can
alone.
eat every plastic straw on the planet. I dislike seagulls.
All right.
Anyways, I don't actually care about the whole plastic straw thing. I was just being antagonistic just to.
Andrew's gonna get canceled.
Canceled by the seagull stan mob.
We do not actually condone murdering seagulls.
Or do we?
I don't.
If you believe that, does that make you gullible?
Why did I agree to host this show with you? Sometimes I wonder. Damn, dude.
Well.
So, I got something new that's not music related.
Oh, that's right. You did.
I got a trigger. I finally got it.
You did. Yes.
Yeah. So, finally got that trigger, and I'm using it right now. I have a pork butt smoking. They have an app so you can like monitor it from afar, which is really neat. I mean, like, oh, I need to refill my pellets. Oh, the grill temperature is holding actually really steady right now. Oh yeah, it's really neat. I love it. I've made 2 chickens on it already. I've smoked 2 chickens, and they were the best. Some of the best chicken I've ever had in my damn life.
One moment you're like, don't hate seagulls that much. The other moment you're like, oh yeah, I just smoked 2 birds. Woohoo!
Yes, I did. But not seagulls, because that's nasty. You are what you eat, and you are
and I don't want to eat plastic straws.
Eats. Yes, you are what you eat, and you don't want to eat garbage. That's why catfish is nasty. I will eat catfish, though.
Catfish is great.
Can be. If it's deep fried. I remember once when I was in Sandusky, Ohio in the off season, and I was in a bar with my boss. I've told this story before, but I ordered the perch, and the guy taking my order said, "Ah, yeah, chicken of the lake." And I looked over at Lake Erie because it was right there, and I thought, oh, I should have gotten the chicken.
Yeah.
Ew.
Well, I have a couple questions about your Traeger. One, I'm going to do my best not to make fun of the fact that you're using a pellet smoker, because as much as I want to make fun of it, I have to admit that it's really convenient. 2, have you considered naming it Chris?
Why would I consider naming it Chris? I'm sure there's a pun in there.
Chris Traeger. Have you not watched Parks and Rec?
I have.
Chris Traeger, Rob Lowe's character.
Oh, see, I don't remember his last name. Also, I doubt he would use a Traeger. I like Rob Lowe, though. No, I don't name inanimate objects usually. I do name living things, which is why I named my sourdough starter Loretta.
Moving on. I hope your Traeger brings you much joy.
So far, so good.
I am going to try and repress all of my competitive instincts that says that you're smoking a pork butt right now, and I've got pork butts brining right now to go in my own charcoal and wood wood chunk smoker because
Yeah.
I'm extra.
Your vertical smoker.
Yeah, I want an offset smoker.
Of course
I'm
you
being
do.
honest.
We talked about this last week.
I know.
This is not a barbecue podcast.
No, but it might get there at some point. I don't know.
Yeah. I hope not. I hope that remains in kind of like the off. Like I don't want to be get offset to be about offset smokers. I want it to be
Sure.
about offset guitars.
Give it 6
Yeah.
months. We're gonna have like a really vicious like split. You're gonna completely lose your mind over the puns, and then I'm gonna split off and just retain the name and just talk about offset smokers.
Like how Blessed of Union of Souls had like that band split off like evenly when those two when Jeff and Elliot stopped being friends. Someone's listening and being like, did she just say Blessed Union of Souls? God, I haven't thought about that band in 25 years. Yeah. I did.
Speaking of puns and catfish, I saw something the other day that I got a good kick out of, and I don't have any way to like set this up into like a good joke right now. I don't have any way to like set this up into a joke, so I'm just going to share the joke, and I recommend using it if you can find a way. Is someone kind of mixed it up and said hatfish? The idea being like if a man's wearing a hat and you just assume he has a full head of hair, but then he totally has a bald spot. He's been hatfished.
So like Tim McGraw or Bret Michaels hatfished.
Sure.
I like that. I don't want to shame bald men, but
no, there's no shame in it.
No, I do just think it's.
I have a slightly vested interest,
funny.
But I won't explain further, nor will I take off my hat.
Are your uncles bald?
Yeah.
Are your mother's brothers bald?
Yeah, and my grandpa.
Right.
My hairline's already receding the same way my grandpa is, and I'm getting a little thin on the back already.
Sorry.
Yep. It is what it is. I know it's been coming.
Yeah. You guys gotta enjoy it while it's there, man.
Just gotta enjoy these luscious locks.
While they get them while they hot.
That's the hand motion that women make when they have long hair, right?
Not that aggressive. Are you talking about like the hair flip?
Oh, I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point, but
my hair is
that should have been apparent months ago.
I hate how long my hair is. I gotta go back to my I gotta try to get an appointment probably. Like they take it really seriously where I get my hair cut. It's like a rental chair place.
Sure.
Though my guy, he's a rock and roll type dude, so I always like going and we talk about guitar pedals and stuff.
Nice.
It's pretty fun. I just had a nice chat with Lauren Kelly, one of our patrons.
Oh, nice.
We did a little video share, kind of talked about like recording techniques and stuff, and it was fun. So I'm available for that, apparently.
I haven't had a haircut in a year, and I think Melissa is gearing up to take a stab at giving me a haircut. And worst case scenario, I end up with a buzz cut.
Yeah. That's not so bad.
It wouldn't be the end of the world if I just got a number 1 over my whole head. Would it look great? No. Would it be the end of the world? No.
Why don't you just lean into the top knot? That's what Rick's done.
Because I don't like wearing the. Okay, so there's masks. That's the reason. I don't like tying. So I don't like having the mask with the ear loops because it hurts my small little ears. And when I'm at work for like 8, 9, 10 hours at a time, that's just not fun.
I'm sorry.
So I prefer to tie it behind my head, but then if I have to tie it behind my head and I've got the long hair, it all gets tied up inside of it, and then I'm a total baby about it.
Okay, why don't you just get the elastic ones that go all the way around?
Because I already have ones that tie.
But if they're not working, whatever, dude. Okay, that's fine. You have your excuse and you don't want a solution, that's fine.
It just sounds like a pain.
It's really not. It's really not.
I know.
So, listeners and viewers, Andrew and I are both in Seattle, and we got a ton of snow.
Yep, we did.
Very unusual for Seattle.
No, I think I woke up yesterday like 8 inches on the ground. Like
Mm-hmm.
I went to bed and there's like maybe an inch. So
Yeah, same. Like, we actually did end up helping someone who was a medical worker. He was having a little bit of trouble turning onto the main road. I'm just watching him in his uh,
Chevy Tahoe.
Chevy Tahoe, like the luxury one,
Yep.
and I'm like, I think it's got to have 4-wheel drive. So I go up to him.
Yeah.
I'm like, does this thing have 4-wheel drive? He's like, I just don't know how to turn it on. I'm like, okay, well, I have a bag of kitty litter and we can help you
Yep.
get unstuck. But if you don't figure out how to turn on your 4-wheel drive, you're going to get stuck going up the next hill.
Yep.
So he sat in his car with his manual out and was reading it. And Rick and I were doing the kitty litter. And Rick said, just, shift it into a lower gear while you get out and then shift it back. Like Rick's trying to like talk to this guy. I'm like, oh, dude, you got to learn your car better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or just get a car with adaptive 4-wheel drive like a Subaru.
Yeah, the Subarus were doing great, man. I saw them zipping up and down. Hey, not a care in the world, just them and the cross country skiers.
Although I did see a Subaru have issues, right, because I live right near a 4-way stoplight, and
Yeah.
this you go past my house and then turn right. It goes up a hill, and he was going up and then sliding back down. And after about 5-10 minutes of me just sitting there sipping my coffee yesterday, it's like 9:00 in the morning. I'm just sitting there watching from my window, laughing.
Yeah.
Um,
That is kind of the reaction. Just
cop showed up. Not to like give him a ticket. He was like, "Here, let me help." Because then he got stuck in the middle of the intersection, like stuck in the middle of a 4-way stoplight, and all the cars are like, "Bro, what are you doing?" And I'm just staring at this guy like he's got a Subaru WRX, but it's like dropped lower to the ground, and it's got the spoiler, and I'm sure it's got racing tires on it. So he's got 4-wheel drive, but that's not going to help him when he's got what look like slicks on.
Yeah. Might have been bottoming out then too, because I remember getting my my Volvo stuck once when it was just bottomed out. My dad was trying to teach me how to drive in the snow in the school parking lot on a snow day, and then he just sees like this tall bank. He's like, "Just go drive into that," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then we got stuck, and he had to dig me out.
Well, so they tried like 3 or 4 times because he kept going up the hill, coming back, getting stuck in the intersection. And like at this point, everyone who was waiting at the stoplight was just getting out of their cars to help push. Like, just get him out of here. They looked visibly upset.
Well, and yeah, finally, sometimes it's like this vehicle has no business being out here.
Yeah. So finally, the cops are like, you see him go back and forth with the dude, and the dude's like, "No, I need to go home." And the cops are like, "Nope, go park over there, and we'll and you're walking home. Get out of this intersection or it's a ticket." And so there's a parking lot across the street from my house. And so he just went over there, parked, and he went to go walk. And I'm just like, "Oh, all right, let's find out what kind of guy this is. Let's find out what kind of guy this is." And he comes walking out in like his like artificially torn up bleached jeans with white sneakers, a hoodie, no hat, completely bald, carrying a Monster Energy drink and talking on the phone like, "Guys, this is bullshit. Walking home, we'll be there soon." And I'm like, I'd be willing to bet his name was Kyle. Just full stereotype. It was great.
Yeah, dude, like if you're going to go out in this weather at all, you need a jacket and a hat. Like you need to assume you're going to get stuck.
Yeah, he was not dressed weather appropriate.
Yeah, when I remember a couple years ago driving up to Leavenworth for the Timber Winter Music Festival, and just so many cars, like we were just stuck in traffic because people would take their little like Priuses up the pass without chains.
Sure.
And then they're just like spinning out and stuff, and like so like on the pass and stuff, cops will straight up ticket you if it's chains required and you don't have them.
Right. Yeah, if it's chains required, absolutely need them. It's funny you say that. I actually took my Prius to Leavenworth last year, but it wasn't. The conditions were fine.
Yeah.
Roads are completely clear. I had no issues.
Yeah, earlier in January when Rick and I went up there, like we had the chains in the back, but the roads were perfect. Yeah, just like enough snow in Leavenworth for sledding, and then we went back to Skycomish to our little weird ass cabin.
As much as it was kind of like frustrating to watch this dude like spin out, honestly, just sitting there sipping on my coffee watching was great entertainment.
It really is,
It was
dude.
just all unfolding like, is it a stereotype? Is it a stereotype? It's the Monster Energy drink. Stereotype.
Yeah, my dude wasn't a stereotype. He just didn't know how to use his car.
Sure.
They'd probably never driven in the snow before. Like, yeah, there was just some obvious stuff. Like just because it's, you know, a Chevy Tahoe doesn't mean you don't, like, it has the things that you need to be able to drive in the snow, but you need to be able to turn those things on.
Right.
Like, you need to figure it out. So yeah, I hope he got to work and back safely.
Hopefully he got to work safely. Hopefully he understood the concept that 4-wheel drive doesn't mean 4-wheel stop.
Yeah, Rick and I went out there with kitty litter and just kind of expecting to tell the guy, like, if it's not an emergency, you need to probably just go home. But then we saw he was a doctor, and we're like, oh yeah, you need to go to work.
Yeah.
It's ultimately that's the only reason we helped him get out, and then we're just like watching him like go up the next hill, and we're like, I hope he remembered to put it back in drive.
Right.
Oh yeah, man. It's been entertaining.
I can drive in the snow just fine. I don't have a problem with it, especially in the Subaru. But I gotta say, I don't shovel snow very frequently, and my back is tore up right now.
Yeah, people always get heart attacks shoveling snow because they're not used to it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Didn't think about. Yeah, because my driveway is a bit of a hill.
Yeah,
you've been in my driveway before.
Oh yeah, I hate your driveway. I hate it a lot.
So I shoveled from the street, so a car and a half width to get, so I could get the Subaru out if I needed to in an emergency.
Yeah, that's smart.
Shovel all the way up to the Subaru, and the Subaru is parked almost all the way to my front door. And there was 10 inches of snow when I started.
Yeah.
Screw that. Man, my whole back is all wrecked. I can feel it like in my, like, how are my ribs sore? My ribs should not be sore.
Because your abdomens, your abdominal muscles.
I have those somewhere under here, but I don't think about them that often.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the problem.
So yeah, though that was a solid like 2 hours to get all of that. And by the time I got done, I'm like, well, that sucked. Let me take a photo. Remember how much this sucked.
Yeah. Totally.
But I'm also slightly proud that I managed to finish without taking a break.
Good. Yeah. Good. You know, I like the snow. I'm glad that I don't have to drive in it. I'm glad that I'm working from home. I'm glad that Rick is currently working from home. And yeah, I'm glad I don't have to go anywhere. Because last time there was a big snowstorm, like I had to take an emergency flight, and it got canceled, and it was very, very, very stressful. They tried to reroute me I was supposed to go to Greenville, and they were like, "Oh, let's route you to Asheville instead." I'm like, "What the? No."
Well, you just take a taxi from there, right? It's close enough.
We ended up going into Charlotte, and because that's just a 90-minute drive.
Yep.
Yeah, and it had a direct flight. I think they wanted us to go, whatever, Asheville, and then they wanted us to connect into Greenville. And we're like, it would be faster to just fly directly into Charlotte and drive 90 minutes, whatever. My brother got his Crystal, and Crystal burgers, and he was happy. But yeah. So do we want to thank sponsors?
I would love to thank sponsors.
You can thank the sponsor.
This week's episode is brought to you by Lambertone's Pickups. Awkward pause for emphasis.
I like Lambertone's Pickups.
I do. I've got my set of cremas in my Jennings, and they're phenomenal, and I love the way that they sound. Yeah. And I've been dreaming about a couple of different options ever since we visited Curtis before we started the podcast officially.
Yeah. I just want to show off my Lambertones also. They're the Jazz Master cremas.
So yeah, no, we visited him before we started the podcast, and so he's been a friend of the show ever since. And when we went to go visit, we got to try out a whole bunch of things, and um, I've just been I've had a couple of those tones stuck in my head ever since. And specifically the set that I've been wanting for a while now is I'm finally getting very excited for him. That's going to be part of my parts caster build. But the set I'm getting is the HSS set. So it's the triple shots in the neck in the middle position, and
Mhm.
it's the grinder, which is the higher gain humbucker.
Nice, because you already have the PAFs or the
Yeah. So I've got
cremas.
the cremas, which are low output PAF style, which super clear. They've got they can do the humbucker kind of sound, but just the string differentiation. It just there's a ton of clarity, and that I really dig that. That's I always hate when I play through a set of humbuckers and like it's thick, but there's no clarity whatsoever, and that really bugs the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I've got another set of humbuckers that I've had for golly like a decade now, and another guitar over here. I won't name and shame.
Golly.
Won't name and shame, but just the difference side by side is just undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm super excited to jump on that train. I'm excited to have the higher gain pickup, have a little bit more fun with that, but also want to get quacky, want to get that Strat quacky
Quack.
sound.
Strat
And
quack.
the
And he's
triple
doing the
shots just do it
wiring.
so well.
He's doing the wiring harness too, isn't he?
We're collaborating on the wiring harness on that. Yeah. So Melissa and I are going to end up soldering it together, but he's helping me with a schematic on that. So a couple different ideas. I know, is it David, who's listening right now?
No, he had to bounce.
He had to bounce. Aw. Well, he sent a schematic for a couple of fun options. I'm just toying with a whole bunch of different ideas for schematic. I kind of like the idea of doing a strangle switch. I kind of like the idea of doing a cocked wah circuit. I mean, I got 8 different ideas of what I want to do with an HSS set. If you've got any creative ideas for what you'd want to do with an HSS set of pickups, given sky's the limit, shoot me some ideas. I'd love to hear it out.
I just realized probably way too late that when you're talking about the strangle switch that my bass 6 has one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I just completely blanked last week. I'm like, oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
It was like I was editing. I'm like, it sounded so stupid.
Nah. It's all good.
Yes. All right. Are we ready? Oh, check out Lambertone's website. Link in video description / show notes.
And follow him on Instagram.
Yes, definitely follow him on Instagram. And speaking of following people, please like, comment, subscribe to this podcast. Please rate and review on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out our Patreon. Patreon's supporters get to experience some really fun behind the scenes stuff. Our Patreons are currently live watching or have the ability to live watch us as we do this podcast in real time. And they get access to a special, the $5 and up levels get access to a special Discord server where we discuss whatever the hell we want. And you can mute whatever channels you don't care about. I'm talking about the Star Wars channel for me, and also the Dreams channel. And
The
also
Star
the
Wars
Dad
one at
Jokes
this point
channel.
is more or less devolved into memes.
Okay.
Which is I'm pretty okay with at this point. There's not any fresh Star Wars content out at the moment. I know.
Yeah. I know you just want to talk about the Mandalorian when it was happening was the big thing.
Right. And then we'd use the spoiler feature where you could
that's
like
pretty cool.
Redact everything, and you can choose to show it if you're ready to see spoilers or not.
Unredacted.
Unredact it. Wouldn't that be a great feature? No, that
It's
was
called
so.
clicking on it sounds like.
It was a super useful feature when we were when the Mandalorian was live, because I'm gotta say, so I'm part of some Star Wars Facebook groups. There's always dumb rules like episode comes out on Friday, but like no spoilers until Monday, and everyone's like,
that's fair.
But we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's fresh, it's exciting, and so this allows us to do that and get all nerdy on the spot, live.
Yeah. Big thanks to Rachel Buchanan for ordering something from getoffsetpodcast.com/shop. Hope she enjoys.
Yay!
Hope she enjoys her sweet swag. Yeah, so that is patreon.com/getoffset. Yes, if you want to support the show, you can also buy via our Reverb and Sweetwater affiliate links. All things that you can do to help support this channel and this podcast.
Indeed.
Or even just watching, hitting like, yeah. Everything you do helps us, and we appreciate all of it. We know times are weird, so if you don't want to support us financially because you can't or whatever, that's fine. We don't judge you.
I'm going to backtrack to sponsorship super quick.
Okay.
I know I said like follow Curtis on Instagram, so go over to Lambertones, follow him on Instagram, but like the unofficial like extra reason to do that, and I'm not promising anything, but he does do a lot of giveaways and or collaborates with like other shops and builders to do giveaways as well. Like it's of the gear companies like that I want to support with my money, this by far I think the most number of giveaways on a regular basis. So like definitely go follow and start jumping in on those, because that helps. Even if you don't win, I mean, that helps him out. So
yeah. I've bought all the Lambertones I've ever had. I also have them in my weird parts caster jazz. I'm sorry, Mustang Bronco.
I'm excited. Right. I'm excited to get this build together. All right, so this week's topic is your idea.
So I've actually just started taking notes about things to nobody's going to be able to read that, about things to talk about. And mostly I started this because people started saying really weird stuff about the Phoebe Bridgers video. I'm like, okay, these are obviously more things that I should probably talk about on a larger scale.
Sure.
But the one that I really thought would be interesting to talk about overall in the gear industry is the fetishization of authenticity. I know I've practiced saying that word a lot of times, but just this idea, and I think one of the weirder critiques, I don't want to say weird, but like one of the bigger critiques I saw of the Phoebe Bridgers guitar smash was that it didn't feel authentic, which, you know, I kind of talk about in the video how like, really it's almost never like off the cuff, spur of the moment, I'm going to smash a guitar. It's usually planned and I'm going to smash a guitar I don't care about as much. But so that was a big thing that people kept saying. Someone even called her an industry plant, and then also said that Taylor Swift and Post Malone were industry plants.
What? And like a fern?
Like a spy or a sleeper agent kind of thing. Like someone who was contrived specifically to be a pop star. Which is very weird. Like when I think of like, so there have been bands and groups throughout the ages that have been essentially been put together rather than formed organically. Like think most boy bands were kind of put together by some producer or something like that. You look at like Milli Vanilli and they were really just break dancers who would then lip sync the music. Like that's obviously like not an authentic thing. But to like and I think that like Jack White has put together a girl group once, and at the same so I like this person said industry plant, like just I think he means like completely contrived, no authenticity, wouldn't have existed at all if people hadn't like plucked her out of the world, I guess, and popped her onto SNL. So I mean, it's
even if that was the case, argument. Why do we care?
Yeah, that's kind of where I am a little bit with it, but I feel like in the gear industry, that's a big thing too. I mean, Gibson had that whole Play Authentic video.
They did.
Talking, and I feel that was, I think, a little bit more literal.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely more related to branding. Yeah. And to be clear, they also pulled that pretty quickly.
They
Um,
did. They did pull that pretty quickly. I don't
like,
really want to dwell on
whoops.
that, but I mean, they wouldn't have made it if it wasn't a vibe that they thought like people
Yes.
potentially would have latched onto. And I think that it's a very fair assessment to say that in music and in art, we latch on to authenticity, and people. I think millennials especially latch and younger latch on to authenticity. We want to have relationships with the brands that we buy from, with the music that we listen to, and that's kind of part of the authentic experience for us.
Sure.
I mean, think about like, gosh, what's a good example of something that wasn't like super authentic? It would be like Shaggy not being Jamaican. Like that was his whole vibe. And if I remember hearing rumors that he wasn't, is where is Shaggy from?
Or like if Scooby
Yeah,
wasn't a
he's from,
dog.
yeah, but like like I think that another like if you're from Maine and you're doing like backwoods country music, people might question the authenticity of that. You know, like you have to be from a place to do the thing. And
Sure.
I don't. And we're not talking about cultural appropriation here, like at all. We're just
Sure.
talking more like there's kind of a fine line between like cultural appropriation and authenticity. And I
It'd be like
think
if my British friend started like a Southern rock band.
yeah, and they did, and people do that, and like
Yeah.
the blues, which was started by black men in Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee, like British white guys are lauded for taking the blues and making it their own thing. Like you think about like specifically Eric Clapton um
Yeah.
supposedly bringing the blues to the UK, or at least
Yeah.
making it big there. And I mean, were people questioning his authenticity back then?
Well,
I don't know. I mean, they are now, so we can't really look at it in that lens. But
yeah.
yeah,
I think that's the wrong question to ask.
okay. What's the right question to ask?
I think the right question to ask is what is authentic and why do we care?
That is a good question to ask.
I don't
So
because I hesitate to try and like juxtapose like here's someone who didn't have their authenticity questioned and here's someone that did have their authenticity questioned and what's the denominator they don't share. That's one way you could postulate it that way, but I think really just kind of smashing down the whole thing and going, hold on a second, guys, this is music, this is rock and roll, this is
mhm.
a whole ton of the music that is popular today is rooted in, at least in a former life, an anti-establishment kind of mentality, and for it to have progressed into a "you're not doing it authentic" is just so ironic. I mean,
It is because like yeah, like I think most people started playing music in their basements or their garages. Like I don't think a lot of people start playing music at a high level.
yeah,
For me, authenticity is like being and staying true to yourself, regardless of what that means to other people. Like, oh God, I don't love Weezer, but when they came out with that song Beverly
hey,
Hills, people were like, I just said I don't love Weezer. I didn't say anything bad about Weezer. So calm down. And people were like, oh, that like people did come out and talk about the authenticity. And he was like, I want to live in Beverly Hills. Like, I want to have the nice things in life. I'm singing about the things I want. So whether or not that's rock and roll, that was, Rivers Cuomo being authentic to himself. And when I look at somebody like Phoebe Bridgers, who writes these super sad folky songs, but her aesthetic is often like a little bit more like she has the metal font logo on the guitar, on the drum kit. She's wearing like skeleton onesies. Like I don't think you can say she's not being authentic to herself. She's not trying to like match the aesthetic at all, which is, and also like who cares if it's a marketing thing? But whatever. I don't like I'm getting farther away from it again. I'm ranting a little bit.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I could break it down. I think it just I think about it a little bit, and it very quickly devolves into and
It's like,
I
so what kind of thing?
I kind of fall into the so what category. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a band that I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit of the so what thing. The other side is I kind of feel like there could be implications to the destruction of the ability for true artists to monetize on their creativity. And I think
Mm.
that's kind of a fear that a lot of people have in regards to pop music and just the music industry in general. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how well founded that is. I'm sure there's a degree to which there is validity to that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I mean, then you got to really pick and choose or be careful about how you levy that fear and accusation. Like, could you
Yeah.
say if could you look at the breakout albums from pop stars and say like, oh yeah, well, I mean that was written by a bunch of Swedish dudes. Sure,
Yeah.
that might be
But
a
it's like
much better
maybe.
that
But
that's a
like,
much better argument than oh my, she didn't break her guitar right.
yeah, but at the same time, you can't fake the authenticity of the connection that pop music has with people. Like,
Sure,
regardless of who wrote it, like, is it so important? Like, is the performer more important than the art? Or like the connection, because you can't, of all the things in this industry that you can't fake whether or not you make a connection with people. Like, there are bands that, like, producers and labels have put so much time and energy into just trying to force this connection, and it just doesn't click with people. And because you can't predict it, you can't really duplicate it. It's lightning in a bottle. And it's a wave that you ride until it fizzles out. But
sure,
I think that another thing that people talk about a lot, like, I like the idea of like a Taylor Swift being an industry plant. One thing I will say is that Taylor Swift's family's money did help her career happen, because not everybody has the ability, like, not every parent has the ability, like, even if they have a gifted child, like Taylor was obviously a gifted child, has the ability to drop things and help make this kid's career happen. And obviously she had some sort of support within her family
yeah, it's
that
called
enabled.
privilege. That's
Yeah,
fine.
it is privilege, but
It's
you
not
cannot.
inherently a bad thing though.
Well, it depends on how you use it. Yeah.
Sure,
And she, like, if she was just an industry plant and all she had going for her was family money, she would not be the biggest pop star in the world. Like, you can't, because you can't buy that. There's not really a price on. Look at people like in acting, Army Hammer or whatever. His family's loaded, and yeah, he's gotten some big roles in movies, but he never happened. It never
sure.
really happened for him, because you can't fake that connection. Like, either people connect with you or they don't.
No, I mean you can't fake the connection. Whether or not you can engineer it, I think, is more of the question. But I think the more that I think about it, and like, because I've been the person like pop music sucks because it's all engineered and not authentic. Like I've been there before, but
Ah, who hasn't?
I I don't know. This might sound like a total lame thing to say, but I think to a degree, if some Swedish group of Swedish dudes figured out what the code
Yeah.
is to get to people, like get into people's heads and find the way that connects to people on a more calculated level, so what? They
Yeah, are the people actually enjoying the music? Or are they harmed by their enjoyment of an art?
right. I would have more of a beef with looking at rather than whether or not they've cracked a code that connects with people, looking at what they do with that. I think is more of where I would start to find issue in terms of the culture that they're driving with this code that they've cracked, or the
Yeah.
because they do have a lot of influence and power over the pop world.
Yeah.
And so whether it be if it's an industry plant situation and the record industry is kind of driving an artist's career, and then you see someone like Rihanna who may more or less gets kicked out and has to work her way back in after being a victim of abuse. I mean, Like, come on, now we've got a problem. You're misusing. You're misusing. I don't know. I don't
Your
think
preference.
that's where
Yeah.
I start to have more of an issue with the authenticity, quote unquote, is kind of digging
Yeah.
into the culture and the messaging that you're sending. But
Yeah.
if it's a teenage pop love song, whatever, and a whole bunch of teenagers dig it, and
Who cares?
I've
Let
got
people like things,
yeah,
and you don't have to like things, but like that's fine. That's also fine. It's
I
fine to not
remember.
like everything.
So in high school, it was my junior year of high school, and at this point, I'd mostly listened to entirely Christian rock, um, or the grunge that my dad had snuck onto my iPod. Um, and I remember like I was kind of working my way into this friend group of like this group of people that I thought was really, really cool. That I had a lot of respect for. And they're like, hey, you want to come eat lunch with us? I'm like, awesome. And the they would eat lunch in their minivan. One of them had a minivan, and I maybe hate minivans. I don't care. It was the party van. And so we went to go eat lunch, and they just started playing music and like a little bit of Weezer, a little bit of Green Day. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then Katy Perry comes on. I'm like, guys, I thought you were cool. Kind of like in the back of my head. And they're like, honestly, this is just fun music. We enjoy it. Do you have a problem with that? And I was like, and I remember just wanting to hate it at first. And after just hanging out with them for a few months, I'm like, okay, I think I get it now. Like, it's a little bit liberating, kind of step back and be like, it's okay to just to enjoy it. But I mean,
Mhm.
circling it back to Phoebe Bridgers, I mean, does it connect with people? Do people enjoy it? Is it harming anyone? And the authenticity, I think, why do we care? The whole genre is rooted in an anti-establishment, breaking the mold kind of a thing. So the fact that there's now a mold is just purely ironic. And
Mhm.
if she wants to break it, you know what? That's more rock and roll than any of. I think that's
Yeah.
more rock and roll than any Led Zeppelin
Yeah.
wannabe group that's kind of just recreating a sound.
Yeah. Part, I think that in the end, like if there's deception involved, that's where you can question the authenticity of it a little bit. Like if it came out she didn't write her own songs or that Taylor Swift didn't write her own songs and that it was just some dude in the back or whatever. Like that's where the problem would arise with authenticity for me. But as far like I feel like especially Phoebe probably has and Taylor at this point has autonomy over their own career. Like I think that they can make a lot of decisions. I mean, Phoebe's on an indie label. I think Taylor basically is running her show. Like I just don't see there being a huge likelihood of a lot of engineering, like a lot of engineering back there. There is certainly somebody at some point at least
Sure,
said that I agree that this is a funny idea for you to wear these skeleton onesies, the whole band, like
sure.
probably, but I don't care. Like it's part of an experience. It's entertainment.
It's part, yeah. It's entertainment, and if you've got, if I think it's okay for all of the creative agency to not lie on the artist that's the front person for a group.
Yeah.
I think it's
Hmm.
okay to have a larger group of creatives that are contributing to creating an experience. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that. And they
Yeah.
don't all
Because
need
it's
to be
it's
named. They don't all need to be public.
because it's I think that it's impossible to it's not a solo endeavor even if you're a solo artist. Like you need to
Sure.
rely on people who know what they're doing to get the lighting right, to get the mix right, and you can learn things as you go. But it's very rare for there to be a performer who top to bottom from the get-go wants to and has the ability to be the creative director for their entire brand and aesthetic. But let's pull this back to Guitar Gear a little bit.
Sure. And
Because
some of those artists do exist. I mean, you got like Prince did a whole lot of that, but even Prince had
Prince did.
supporting.
Prince, yeah, he did, and frankly, he could have used an editor a little bit more. And
Sure.
he did listen to other people, and he did have collaborators. His whole first album was like collaboration, and he had ideas, and
Sure.
Purple Rain was his idea, but like when you do look at the like some of the things that Prince did just like completely on his own, like the movie Graffiti Bridge or whatever, like where he like let's not pretend that was fantastic because it was. I love Prince and I find Graffiti Bridge borderline unwatchable because he started pulling away anyone who would like say other things. Like it just not all of it was a good idea. I'm glad he had a lot of fun doing it, but and he got to do what he wanted,
Sure.
but like that's authentic, but it was not as good as Purple Rain, which had more hands working on it.
And there it is.
But yeah. But as far
I
as
know.
gear goes, like I feel like one of the big things in the gear industry, especially in the boutique pedals, is we really romanticize bootstraps. I mean, that's just American to be like, oh, bootstraps, like you did it yourself. You didn't take any financial help from other people. Like, I know we talked about JHS last week, but we know that they started with, some money from somebody else, right? Was there an
I
initial
don't.
investor that helped them get off their feet?
It's possible. I don't honestly
Yeah.
know what their financial
Yeah.
background is. I know that
Like
Josh
I think
started out
Walrus,
with modding pedals.
yeah, and I think Walrus started with investors at
I think
least.
Walrus is a bit more. I know
Yeah.
in the fallout of Gear Supply Company, I know that they had quite a bit of investment money to help them get off the ground.
And they took
Um,
investors till the very end.
yeah, Gear Supply took investors, and I would sincerely doubt that investors ever actually got back their investment.
No, not
Um,
at
but
all.
I I think that's just part of business. And I don't think that necessarily getting investment help is a handout either, because you got to pay it back with interest usually.
Yeah,
And even
usually.
if like family,
Or someone or that person takes ownership, partial ownership.
well, there is that, but then you're paying back in value anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, so investors, I feel like they either like take a percentage or it's a loan. And then a
Sure.
loan you would pay back. An investor, I think that they typically get like dividends or something. I don't really know. My husband had an investor with his company. I don't remember how that worked out.
Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that's all part of business. I wouldn't say that's not bootstrapping it though, if you're starting from the ground up, because trying to land venture capital is not easy to do. You got to convince people to give you their money.
Right?
I mean, that
Right?
takes planning and pitching and meetings and probably PowerPoint decks that no one actually cares about, and just a whole number of
Yeah.
things. Um,
Yeah. And
I
I
mean,
mean,
I,
it is
I,
bigger
I
in
I'm fine
boutique,
with
like
giving credit
caring
where
about.
credit's due.
I mean, you have to do that because if you're like selling rebranded, like AliExpress guitar pedals, which happens all the time,
Yes,
and some are just more honest
yes.
about how it comes about. Some are extremely deceptive, and that's not super authentic. But and then some like God, like that little yeah, the one that we had a run in with, like they're all Donner pedals, or gosh, who are the other companies who make use that same enclosure?
Donner,
Like it's
Rowan, Moore.
Rowan, Kuf,
I mean, they're all the same
Ku,
pedals out of the same factory.
yeah, yeah. So it's just different, like chassis, vaguely different design on the chassis, and
If you
that's
see
it.
many pedals being sold by an American company, check. Uh,
I mean, Mister
Double
Black makes
check.
their own mini pedals.
Yes. No, I'm not saying
That's
that
probably the
all mini
exception.
pedals are not.
Yeah, but if it's just like something you've not heard of, and it's just like a little flanger that's like that big, like a very small little boy.
Sure. Not saying
I mean,
don't pay for it. Just be aware.
yeah,
And
it's not saying it's bad. It's just like understanding that it's like where it came from is as long
informed
as that's
consumers are
like,
the best consumers.
yeah, yeah. So just like being transparent about what it is, I think is kind of the difference between authenticity and being inauthentic.
Sure. I'm pretty okay with that. I think with the gear industry, I think where it starts to come back with the authenticity talk is a combination of like business practices and also product offerings. Um,
Yeah.
I think a lot of product offerings that kind of break the mold often get well, this doesn't sound like what I want it to. It's like, well, guys, that's not the point. And I think the industry is slowly getting better about warming up to out of the box gear. And I don't know if some of that is just a true culture change or if some of that's just a fatigue of the same tube screamer variants over and over again.
I mean, I don't know. It is like, how many rats can you have? How many tube screamers can you
Well,
have?
there's actually not, you can never have too many rats, but tube screamers, I think the limit is 2
On one board, or just like in the
in
world?
general. Yeah.
In the world?
No, like per person,
Okay, all right.
specifically 2.
But you can have as many rats as
Yes, absolutely as
you
many
can
rats
handle.
as you can handle.
You know, the thing is, for every rat you see, there's like 100 rats that you don't.
Exactly.
Isn't that what they say about infestations?
I think that's what we say about Grant from Big Ears Rat Collection.
Dude, I remember when I worked in New York, I didn't want to eat at the Wendy's in our building because we had rats, so I knew that they definitely had rats.
Yep. Yep.
So I was like, I know every place has rats, but at the same time, like, there's that mental bridge you have to cross, and sometimes you just can't.
Yep. No, I don't like rats.
Physical rodents. You like the petals.
I do like the petals. I don't like the animals. Not a fan. We had one in our yard when we first moved in. And I remember the first
Yeah.
time I saw it, it was taking out the trash, which is on the side of the house. And I remember just hearing it like scuttering it like into the bushes. I'm like, oh hell nah. So I like immediate like I don't even think I waited like the night. Like I went straight to Home Depot and I got a whole bunch of rat traps and started like borderline obsessively like looking up ways to like exterminate.
Did you
There we
ever
go.
did you ever get one? Did you ever
Got
catch
one.
them?
I got one, and I think it was the only one that we had because I haven't seen one since.
Uh,
It was a big sucker too.
on that note,
Yeah. So, anyways, not a fan. But for authenticity, I don't know. I think we did an
I think it's
episode. For gear stuff, we did an episode back in probably the first couple of months we started, and I shared kind of my thoughts on weird pedals and wanting to break out of the box and kind of breaking the authentic loop. Is I think everyone should have one pedal on their board that they don't know what to do with.
sure. I don't really know what that has to do with authenticity, but sure.
I think
I just, I think, I
authenticity is
just,
boring. It's trite. It's stale. It's a non-issue that's an issue, and I think I'm a fan of just smashing it every way possible. Like why? Why do we care? That's why I keep coming back to.
yeah, I left quite a few comments that were just like replies to comments in my Phoebe Bridgers video that they were like, so what? And those almost never got responses. So what? Yeah, for me, I think it's just like transparency is cool. Like I think with consumer goods, transparency is a little bit more important because I think it really
Sure.
sucks when you think that you're getting like one thing and you're not. And if that was because of your own misunderstanding, it's one thing, but if it's because of like some deception, like Gear Supply Company, I think is probably the best example of something that just was not authentic. Like there was and deceptively inauthentic because they made the claim that they were removing the middleman between you and like your strings or whatever, but they were a middleman because they didn't make their strings. Like Stringjoy makes their strings.
Right.
Gear Supply Company rebranded like
Yep.
Everly Rockers, and that was it.
Yep.
So it would be like if Donner came and was like, "We designed this pedal," and you're like,
Right.
"Then why is it identical to this other one?"
Yeah. No. informed consumers are the best consumers. I think that should apply for music. I would love to see more transparency from the music industry, partially just because I'm frequently annoyed with people going like, "Oh, that's not the way things are," and someone's like, "No, that is the way things are," and everyone's like, "Well, neither of you know, so stop
What's an
speculating."
example of that?
Um, like whether or not music and like what the record. I'm thinking more in terms of like what record labels do or do not, and how much control they have, and whether or not certain songs are actually written by an artist. And I don't know.
Well, it's I th- it's not common or good practice to like fudge liner notes. It does happen.
Sure.
Like like I think that one example is on the whole Celebrity Skin record. Patty the drummer isn't the drummer on the record. She's in the
Mm,
art, she's credited, but it's actually a completely different drummer. And that's like ghostwriting articles, which happens all the time, and
sure.
is not necessarily like, I mean, I can't complain about that. I've made lots of money from ghostwritten articles about software
Sure.
as a service stuff, and I mean, maybe that's not authentic, but it's getting approved somewhere. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's something that's I don't think it's worth getting that caught up in. Is I guess kind of
That's
my
also fair.
takeaway. Like, does it affect you at all? If it doesn't, then maybe don't care. Like, you don't have to listen to Phoebe Bridgers. You don't have to tweet about her. You don't have to care. I
Yeah,
mean,
but a
and that you
successful woman has just ruined my whole existence, and I can't handle it.
it's big of you to admit that. You said the quiet part out loud.
I can't sleep knowing that I'm not really that much of an alpha.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Yeah,
sucks for you. I'm sorry to hear that.
I
I'm
know.
also thanking you for your levels being correct this week.
I changed nothing.
I don't know why. Well, actually, like, it was the beginning of last week that you were way too loud and were clipping in the audio. And I would like to apologize for the audio, but that was not my fault. And
I've
then you
changed
turned it
nothing.
down.
Do I need to start
I know,
locally
dude.
recording audio to send you?
I mean, technically you are.
Ow. Oh. Oh my God. Ow.
Well, thanks for
Sorry.
watching. Thanks for understanding. Until next time, my
Ah.
name is
Yep.
Emily.
And my name is Andrew with the ow, my
He just
shoulder.
he
I was
just
just
pulled something
stretching
for
with
the
my
listeners.
arms over my head and my shoulders like popped, not at a joint, but it just like a real painful muscle pop. That's better.
Until next time, my name is Emily.
My name is Andrew.
Goodbye.
Bye.